The camera was already pointed at me before the candles were lit. Noticed it because my sister has a particular smile when she thinks something is going to trend. Not a happy smile. A tight one. Anticipatory. The restaurant was loud in that polished way, cutlery chiming against plates, waiters moving in choreographed lines. Mother had chosen it because it looked expensive in photographs. 30. One deserved something. Memorable, she'd said. I remember thinking that word felt like a warning. The cake arrived. My name was spelled correctly for once. Father stood instead of waiting for me to blow out the candles. That was the second sign. He didn't clear his throat. He didn't stumble. He unfolded a single sheet of paper and read it like he was announcing a quarterly report. From all of us, my mother added, smiling at the neighboring tables as if they were part of the performance. Sister shifted slightly to capture my face. The word disownment sounds medieval, like something involving torches and exile. Modern font, printed cleanly, it looks almost administrative. A family decision, a severance, emotional downsizing. He spoke about disappointment, diverging values, independence. He said they were releasing me. Releasing might have landed differently if I hadn't already spent the last 6 months preparing for it. There's a moment when humiliation wants to bloom. It rises fast, heat in the chest, ringing in the ears. I felt it start, also felt something steadier underneath. I let him finish. When he handed me the paper, I took it with both hands. I read it. Slowly. My sister leaned closer for a reaction shot. I looked up and said, "Thank you for letting me know." Not sarcastic, not angry, just level. Mother's smile flickered. My father waited for the part where I would argue. I didn't. I stood, smoothed my jacket, paid my portion of the bill at the counter before leaving. No slammed doors, no tears in the parking lot. Just the quiet click of my car locking behind me. They thought they were ending something. They didn't know I already had. 6 months earlier, I had been sitting in a different office with a different kind of paper in front of me. A lawyer, neutral voice, neutral tie. "You're certain?" he'd asked. I was. The business had started as my father's idea, but it had survived because of my credit, contracts, my late nights. My name had become the guarantor on the expansion loan. Signature had carried weight the family liked to forget. At every holiday, I was told I wasn't committed enough to family. Every financial crossroads, I was the one asked to sign. It wasn't anger that pushed me to that office. It was pattern recognition. So we restructured, legally, cleanly, quietly. My ownership share transferred into a holding structure solely under my control. My personal guarantee was withdrawn at the first eligible review date. Replacement collateral was required, something they hadn't prepared for because they assumed permanence. I didn't hide it. I just didn't announce it. When the letter came at my birthday dinner, I understood the timing. They believed I was still financially braided into them. Disowning me publicly would reassert dominance without cost. They miscalculated. 3 days after the dinner, the bank sent its notice. Not emotional, not dramatic, just procedural, due to the change in guarantor status and ownership structure. The loan terms required renegotiation within 14 days. Failure to comply would initiate asset review. My father called that afternoon. He didn't yell. He sounded confused. "There's been some kind of mistake." "There hasn't," I said. Pause. Papers shuffling on his end. "They're saying you're no longer attached to the company." "That's correct." "You never told us." "I wasn't required to. Silence can be more destabilizing than shouting." I let it stretch. "You did this before the dinner?" he said slowly. "Yes," Another pause, this one heavier. You knew? I suspected. Exhaled through his nose. Not anger, calculation. You're putting us in a difficult position. The phrasing almost made me smile. Difficulty were a weather pattern I'd summoned. I formalized independence, I said. You formalized disownment. The timelines just happened to align. It wasn't revenge. I hadn't triggered the bank notice. The review clause had been standard procedure. Authority doesn't arrive with sirens most of the time. It arrives in envelopes. Over the next week, their calls shifted tone. From confusion to negotiation, Mother asked if we could undo the misunderstanding. My sister sent a message that didn't mention the video, demand apologies. I didn't request public corrections. I gave them contact information for the lawyer. This is business now, I said, and that was the shift. Not loud, not cinematic, just unmistakable. They had tried to reduce me to a spectacle. The system reduced them to paperwork. The restaurant video never surfaced. I don't know if my sister deleted it or just realized it lacked the climax she wanted. There's no viral thrill in someone standing up calmly. There were consequences. Had to liquidate a secondary property to satisfy the bank's collateral requirement. My father stepped back from expansion plans. Conversations in their circle changed tone. No one was ruined. No one was destroyed. But the illusion that I was dependent evaporated. A month later, my father asked to meet. We sat in a quieter place this time. No cameras, no audience. You could have warned us, he said. I replied. He frowned. Every time I asked to formalize my role, every time I suggested clearer agreements, time I said I didn't want to mix approval with finances, he didn't argue. That was new. You're still my son, he said finally. Let the sentence sit. It wasn't reconciliation. It was recognition that control had shifted. I'm still me, I said, with or without paperwork. We didn't hug. We didn't repair everything. But he stopped speaking to me like a subordinate. The night of my 31st birthday, after the calls and the bank notices and the quiet restructuring of reality, sat alone in my apartment. No cake, no performance, just the disownment letter folded neatly on the table. I read it again, not for pain, but for clarity. They had wanted a reaction. What they got was a boundary. It didn't feel triumphant. It felt expensive. Independence always does. I turned off the lights and stood by the window for a while, looking at a city that didn't know it had witnessed anything significant. There are no applause tracks for dignity, no viral clips of restraint. But somewhere between the candle smoke and the bank letterhead, something irreversible had happened. They thought they were removing me. What they really did was confirm I no longer needed to stay.